not from invasion, not from barbarians, but from within. This is the war Rome buried, the war she whispers about, if at all. Because in it, Rome didn't fight a foreign enemy. She fought her own reflection. They had once marched together, fought together, bled under the same banners, burned the same villages, buried their dead in the same ditches. For nearly a century, the cities of the Latin League and the rising city of Rome had stood side by side. Brothers, they called themselves, allies by treaty, children of the same gods. But brothers don't stay equal forever, and Rome was tired of pretending. The hills of Latium rolled green in spring, but the fields smelled of smoke. Farmers vanished, ambushes began. Scouts went missing. Fortresses stopped answering. Then came the message. Not from Samnites, not from Gauls, but from Latins. A single demand, a threat disguised in diplomacy. Let us rule together. One consul Latin, one Roman. Equal in Senate, equal in arms. The Roman Senate read it in silence, and then they laughed. Laughed until their wine spilled and their fists slammed the tables, because Rome had already decided there would be no equality. There would only be Rome. And so, in the year 340 BC, war was declared. But this wasn't conquest, this was revolt. And Rome knew if it lost this war, there would be no empire, no future, no name left to remember. Because the enemy knew every weakness. They had trained together, lived together. Now they would tear each other apart. 2 Roman consuls were chosen to lead. Publius Decius Mus, a man of the people, brave to the edge of recklessness, and Titus Manlius Torquatus, a man of law, forged from stone and silence. Torquatus had never smiled in battle. He'd never smiled in peace. His own soldiers feared him more than the enemy. But he was just what Rome needed now. The legions marched south, down roads carved by their own hands, through cities that once saluted them, past gates that now closed as they approached. Their enemies didn't look foreign. They looked familiar. The same helmets, the same tactics, the same languages and standards and songs. Only the flags were different. Rome's eagle now faced itself. In the camp before the first battle, a young Roman officer, Manlius, son of the consul, heard word of a Latin champion issuing open challenge beyond the field. It was an ancient ritual, a duel before dawn. The boy had trained for this. He begged his commander for permission. Torquatus said no. The law was clear. No soldier leaves formation, no champion fights for glory without orders. But Manlius, desperate to earn his father's pride, rode into the fog anyway, and he won. The Latin champion fell in one stroke. Manlius returned to camp blood-stained and proud, bearing the man's armor as trophy. The soldiers cheered, but his father did not. Torquatus said nothing for hours. Then he summoned the boy to stand before the assembled legion. He stared at his son, the same boy he had taught to ride, to drill, to fight. And he gave the order. You disobeyed command. Rome does not honor victory won through lawlessness. Then he turned away, as the executioner drew his blade. The legion watched in silence as the son of the consul was beheaded, not for treason, not for cowardice, but for breaking the chain of command. That night, the camp did not sing, but it did not break either. Torquatus had made his point. In this war, Rome would have no weakness, no pride, no love, only order. The next day, they marched to Vesuvius. The Latins waited across the valley. Their forces joined with Campanian rebels, stronger in number, higher on ground. Before the sun had risen, Decius Mus woke screaming from a dream. He staggered to the augurs, priests who read omens in the flight of birds and the liver of sacrificed animals. They told him what he already knew. The gods had spoken. Only sacrifice would win this war. And so, before the battle began, Decius Mus took the sacred veil. He covered his head. He stood before his army. And without a word, he charged alone into the enemy ranks. The Latins hesitated, confused, until they saw the standard on his chest, a Roman consul offering himself to the gods.
They surged forward, axes to shields, javelins through ribs, mud and steel and screams. The Latins fought with fury. They did not break. They knew the land, but the Romans knew the cost of defeat. At Vesuvius, they carved through the Allied lines and broke them into flight. It was not a rout, it was a butchery. When it ended, thousands lay dead, and yet the war was not over. The Latins retreated to the sea, to Antium, to Lanovium, to Aricia. The roads burned with the feet of refugees and rebels. Rome pressed forward, bloody and limping. City by city, it crushed the resistance, but each fight cost more lives. Every victory was a funeral. Even the Roman allies in Campania hesitated. They had seen what happened to equals who questioned Rome's authority. They had seen a father execute his son, a consul ride into death, an army bleed itself dry just to prove that it would not yield. And in 338 BC, at the final confrontation near Tryphanum, the last rebel force formed a desperate line. They dug trenches, burned their own fields, chained their flanks together so no man could flee. Rome sent in its veterans first, then its cavalry, then its silence. By nightfall, the field was red from shore to shore, and the Latin League no longer existed. Rome did not celebrate. There was no triumph, only reorganization. Cities were stripped of identity. Some were granted partial citizenship, a halfway life, allowed to fight Rome's wars, but not vote in her elections. Others were denied everything, reduced to tributary states, seen but unheard. Rome had won, but at a cost that would echo forever. The Latin War, the war that nearly ended Rome before it began, taught the Republic its first, deepest lesson. Never trust a rival. Never share power. Never permit a brother to think himself your equal, because someday he will raise a sword, and you will be forced to raise yours higher. Rome did not conquer the world because she was the strongest. She conquered it because she knew what betrayal looked like, up close. She had survived it once, and never again. If this story opened your eyes to the wars that built Rome, subscribe to Echoes of Conflict. Comment below. Should Rome have shared power, or was it right to crush its own allies.